My husband turned his daughter's wedding into a pity party about his ex. I stormed out on our anniversary, and now I am leaving the night before the wedding. Today is our anniversary. 8 years of marriage. You'd think it would mean something more. That I'd be celebrating or smiling or at least feeling a sense of pride or joy. But instead, I spent most of the day in the passenger seat of a rental car, staring out the window as my husband, Paul, drove us across 2 states to his stepdaughter's wedding. We barely spoke. We stopped for gas and coffee and silence. I said happy anniversary once, early in the morning, in a quiet voice, and he replied with a nod and a yeah, like I'd reminded him we were low on laundry detergent. I don't know what I expected. Our relationship didn't exactly begin on solid ground. I met Paul while he was still married. And yes, before you ask, we did get involved while he was still with his wife. I don't deny it. I've never tried to make excuses or tell some watered-down version of that part of my life. What I did was wrong. I hurt people. I broke something that wasn't mine to break. And I live with that weight every day. I know a lot of people reading this probably already think I'm a villain. That I deserve everything that's coming to me. That I stole someone else's life, someone else's husband, someone else's family. And maybe I did. Maybe this is karma slowly circling back. I've had nights I couldn't sleep, just sitting in the quiet, wondering if I really am the bad guy in someone else's story. Maybe even in my own. But this story isn't about the affair. Or, at least, not just that. It's about what came after. About the slow burn of consequences. About standing in a family you didn't help build, trying to glue pieces back together that you helped shatter, and realizing some things can't be fixed no matter how badly you want to. Paul's ex-wife remarried less than a year after their divorce. From everything I've heard, she's happy. Truly happy. She's been with her current husband longer than Paul, and I have been married. Sometimes I find myself scrolling through her social media. Yes, I know how that sounds, and looking at her pictures with this strange mix of guilt and envy. Not because I want her life, but because she looks so free of the weight I still carry. I wonder if she ever thinks about us. About me. About the way her life rerouted, because I stepped in where I shouldn't have. Paul has a few children, both biological and step. They're all grown now, 30s professionals scattered across the country. His stepdaughter, Lily, is the one getting married tomorrow. She was the closest to him before everything fell apart. He helped raise her since she was a little girl. Her father wasn't in the picture much, and Paul stepped up. She used to call him Dad, even before her mother married him. He loved her, I think. Or he meant to. But Paul isn't good at showing love. That's something I've learned in 8 years. He's not cruel or cold, he's just absent. Emotionally, at least. He avoids confrontation, ignores problems until they explode, and then pretends the wreckage never happened. After we got together, things with Lily became strained. Understandably. She didn't want to talk to him. She didn't want to talk to me. She went silent for a long time. But then, out of nowhere, she reached out. She invited him to her wedding. And not just him, me too. I was shocked. Genuinely shocked. I expected anger or distance or a pointed uninvite. But she insisted. She told Paul he should come. That he had to come. That he could bring me if he wanted. It felt like a lifeline. Like she was trying to let something go. And I desperately wanted to believe that. To hope for that. You have to understand, I've tried. Over the years, I've really, truly tried to help Paul rebuild his relationship with his children. I've pushed him to call, to text, to write letters. I've reminded him about birthdays, anniversaries, even job interviews. I planned family dinners, arranged surprise visits. I once even coordinated an entire weekend trip for us to fly out and see Lily without telling him it was happening until the night before. He went along with it. We stayed in a hotel near her apartment and spent 2 days doing tourist things and eating at places she loved as a kid. She smiled. She hugged him. There were moments I thought, maybe this is the turning point. But when we got home, everything went back to how it was. Paul retreated. He didn't follow up. He didn't reach out. Weeks passed. Then months. Eventually, it just faded into nothing again. I stayed in touch with Lily for a while. Sent a few messages, shared some photos, asked about her work. But it started to feel weird. Like I was intruding into something that wasn't mine. Like I was trying to keep a connection alive that Paul himself had let die. So I backed off. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know how to keep doing it alone. I was honestly surprised when Lily sent the wedding invitation. I didn't expect to be invited. How could I be? I'm the woman her dad left her family for. No matter how anyone tries to paint it now, That's the truth that lingers in every room I walk into with them. So when Paul handed me the envelope and I saw our names neatly printed in elegant script, my stomach dropped. I told Paul right away that I didn't want to go. It would be disrespectful. It felt wrong. Her mother would be there. The woman whose life I helped derail. And Lily herself. What must it cost her to even send that invite? I couldn't imagine walking into that wedding as if I had any rightful place there. But Paul insisted. He said he wouldn't attend if I didn't go. That Lily specifically wanted us both there. I thought maybe he was misreading the situation, projecting his hopes onto the invite. But when he messaged Lily to ask if she was really okay with both of us attending, her response was clear and kind of heartbreaking. She was upset he'd even questioned it. She told him she expected him and her mom to behave like adults, that this wasn't about their history, but about her. She wanted both of her parents there and their spouses. That hit me hard. The grace it must take to say that out loud. So against all sane reason, I said I'd go. I didn't want her hurting. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Lily messaged Paul again. She invited him on a pre-wedding hike with some close friends and family. She wanted some casual, quiet time together before the chaos of the big day. I didn't even know she'd reached out. He never mentioned it. Turns out he ignored the message. For months. She followed up just a few days before the wedding, probably hoping to nudge him into joining. That's when he finally responded, not with an apology, not even a polite decline. He told her that he wouldn't be going on the hike and that he'd be taking my sons from a previous relationship, hiking instead. My kids weren't even coming to the wedding. When I saw the message, I felt physically sick. It was so cold, dismissive, thoughtless. This woman had gone out of her way to include him, to try to share something meaningful with her father, and that was his response? I was horrified. I told him immediately that he needed to apologize, and he flat out refused. He said he hadn't done anything wrong, that he didn't want to see his ex, and that's why he didn't want to go on the hike. As if that was an acceptable reason to blow off his daughter. I told him if he didn't plan to apologize, then he shouldn't attend the wedding at all. That he was being insanely selfish and hurtful. I could barely look at him. And in my frustration, I wrote the apology myself. I handed him my phone and said, "Send this. Now. Or don't bother showing up." He sent it. I don't think he meant a word of it, but he sent it. Lily responded with grace again. She thanked him and asked, one more time, if he would please be there. She said she wanted to do a father-daughter dance with both her biological dad and Paul. I cried when I read that. After everything, she still wanted him there. Still wanted to include him in one of the most meaningful moments of her life. I don't know if I've ever felt more undeserving of someone's kindness than I did reading that message. We drove down to the wedding together, Paul, silent behind the wheel, and me, pretending not to feel like I was holding my breath the entire time. I kept looking out the window, watching the landscape change, thinking about how many years I'd spent trying to repair something I didn't even break. I didn't destroy Paul's relationship with his kids. He did that all on his own. But I've spent nearly a decade trying to help him fix it. Encouraging him to call, to visit, to stay in touch. Organizing that surprise trip to see Lily, arranging every detail so they could reconnect. And watching it all crumble because he couldn't be bothered to respond to a text message just crushed me. At the wedding, I kept to myself. I smiled when it was appropriate. I stayed in the background. Lily looked beautiful, radiant in the way brides are when they're sure. Her biological dad was there, too, beaming with pride. Paul stayed quiet most of the evening, except during the brief moment they danced. I could see the conflict in his eyes, like he wanted to be the man she remembered, but couldn't quite access that part of himself anymore. After the ceremony, I caught Lily alone for a moment. I didn't know what to say, so I just said thank you. For inviting me. For letting me be there. For being bigger than the history we share. She smiled and said, "Your family, even if it's complicated." And that was it. She walked back toward the reception tent, toward the life she was beginning, and I stood there blinking back tears. Throughout everything, Paul has found a way to make his daughter's wedding about himself. Every conversation turned into how he didn't want to see his ex-wife. How awkward it would be. How unfair it all felt to him. His discomfort became the center of every decision he made or refused to make. And it infuriated me. I mean, yes, I understand that seeing his ex-wife might stir up some complex emotions. But this wedding wasn't about him. It wasn't about their divorce or the past or any of the wreckage we left behind. It was about Lily, his daughter, and the beginning of her new life. His ex, despite having every reason to resent us, hadn't prohibited him from being invited. In fact, she extended grace that I honestly didn't think she owed either of us. She was taking the high road. She didn't object to him coming. She didn't start drama. She showed up for her daughter, no matter how hard it might have been. I pointed that out to Paul. I told him, she doesn't want to see you either. This isn't some party she's throwing in your honor. She's just doing what's right for Lily. But he couldn't or wouldn't see it that way. He didn't want to attend any of the wedding events except for the ceremony itself. Lily had planned 3 or 4 days of pre-wedding gatherings, casual, fun, family bonding things. Things that meant something to her. Things she all but begged her father to be part of. But he declined every single one. Claimed he wasn't comfortable. That it would just be too weird. That he wasn't obligated to put on a show. So I tried to compromise. I suggested that we arrive late, after dark on the day we were scheduled to come into town, just to avoid any awkwardness. I thought if we skipped the daylight crowd and didn't insert ourselves into any of the festivities he wasn't willing to attend, maybe we could at least minimize the tension. Keep things from being harder than they had to be. He agreed at first. But then at the last minute he changed his mind. We arrived right in the middle of one of Lily's pre-wedding events, a casual taco truck gathering with friends and family. Everyone was outside, laughing, eating, mingling. And because I'm handicapped, the only available parking for us was directly in front of everyone. I felt like I was walking into a minefield with a neon sign strapped to my back. I told Paul, gently, that maybe he should get out of the car and go find Lily. People had seen us pull up. It would be so rude to just sit there like we were waiting to be escorted. But he wouldn't budge. He flat out refused. I was a nervous wreck. He was too, but he wouldn't admit it. He just sat there sulking in the driver's seat, arms crossed like a teenager forced to attend a school function. My heart was pounding. I was anxious to the point of shaking. I didn't know what we were doing there, if we weren't even going to try. So I tried to lighten the mood. I turned to him and, in my most sarcastic, awkward voice, I said, "Okay, let's make a bet. Who do you think gets stabbed first, me or you? And by who?" I meant it as a joke. A terrible one, sure, but it was the only way I could think to break the suffocating tension. I needed something, anything, to make me feel like I could breathe. He didn't laugh. He didn't smile. He looked at me like I'd just spit in his face. "You're causing trouble," he snapped. "You're making this worse." And that hurt. Not because he didn't like the joke, I expected that, but because I was trying. I was trying so hard to keep things from falling apart. I was doing emotional gymnastics just to help us get through one weekend without imploding, and he couldn't even see that. He saw my fear and discomfort and turned it into an accusation. I told him I wasn't trying to start anything, that I was just very nervous and trying to have an inside joke to ease the tension. I told him it helped me navigate situations like this, ones where I feel like the villain entering a room full of people I've hurt, even if indirectly. And most of all, I told him he was being rude by refusing to go greet his daughter. She had seen us arrive. Everyone had. And he was sitting there like a sullen child, too self-absorbed to consider how his behavior looked or felt to her. But of course, that led to an argument. Because with Paul, criticism, even gentle, even deserved, is always received as betrayal. Later that evening, after all the tension and awkwardness of our arrival had started to settle, at least outwardly, Paul ended up having a brief conversation with his ex-sister-in-law. It was short, stiff, polite on the surface, but thick with undercurrents of years of damage and resentment. I watched it from a distance, and every part of me tensed up. I could feel how fragile the whole situation was, how much grace it was taking from everyone just to hold the room together. Afterward, when we were alone again, I said to him as gently as I could, "You can't expect people to treat you like nothing happened, Paul. You can't walk in here like everything's water under the bridge, and everyone should be happy to see you." I wasn't trying to pick a fight. I really wasn't. I was trying to ground him, trying to remind him that we were guests in a very emotionally loaded space. That the least we could do was be unobtrusive, respectful. I told him I thought it would be better if he didn't try to be overly friendly with everyone. Not because they hated him, but because it was just too soon. Too raw. He needed to read the room, not try to own it. But of course, he took that the wrong way. "I'm not doing anything wrong," he said, his voice cold and defensive. "You're the one making it weird. You're overreacting." That was it. That was the moment something in me snapped. "No," I told him. "I'm not overreacting. I'm reacting. To you." to your complete lack of empathy for what your daughter is going through, to the fact that you've made her wedding about your comfort, your feelings, your ridiculous avoidance of your ex-wife. And meanwhile, I'm the one walking on eggshells, trying to clean up your mess and keep this whole thing from falling apart. He tried to talk over me, but I didn't let him. I'm embarrassed to be here with you, I told him. Truly embarrassed. I thought we were a team, Paul. I thought we'd face the discomfort together. That even in the awkward moments, we'd be a quiet, united front. Show up, stay out of the spotlight, and just support your daughter. But instead, you're standing outside staring at everyone like some ghost from the past haunting the party. You refused to go talk to her when we arrived. You didn't want to attend anything, and you're acting like the victim. Again. He looked stunned, as if I'd come out of nowhere with this rage, but it had been building for days, weeks, honestly. Ever since he ignored that pre-wedding hike invitation. Ever since he dismissed Lily's feelings and mine like they were interruptions to his peace of mind. She's your daughter, I said. She's not just someone you show up for when it's convenient. She asked you to be there. She begged you. And you gave her nothing but crumbs. You sent her a shitty text message, refused to go on a simple hike with her, and you think I'm the problem? Still, he insisted he'd done nothing wrong. He said I was blowing things out of proportion. That the only person making a scene was me. You're so selfish, I said. You're self-centered, and you act like a martyr any time things don't revolve around you. You're always the victim. Always. And with that, I grabbed my keys. I couldn't take one more minute of standing in the ashes of his emotional avoidance. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I just left. I drove until I found a hotel that wasn't in the center of everything. A quiet place where I could finally let my breath out. I checked in and sat on the bed in silence, for what felt like hours. My hands were still shaking. Not because I was scared, but because I was heartbroken. Because somehow, even though none of this was supposed to be about me, I felt caught in the center of a tornado that wasn't mine. A few hours later, Paul texted me. Where are you? He asked. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. I won't be coming back until the day we check out, I wrote. I won't add stress to this wedding. I won't stand next to you while you behave like this. I won't be part of your ridiculous performance. He didn't respond right away. When he finally did, it was exactly what I expected and feared. I can't believe you're doing this to me, he wrote. You ruined our anniversary. That was the dagger. Our anniversary. As if that's what mattered right now. As if the fragile emotional dance of his daughter's wedding should take a backseat to a date on the calendar. As if I was the one being cruel. And yet, somehow, I still felt like I was the villain. Now I'm sitting here, alone in a hotel room with a view of a parking lot and a racing mind. I keep replaying everything. The conversation. The expression on his face. The disappointment on Lily's when she got that first text from him. The sheer weight of everything unsaid between every person in that wedding group. And the truth is, I don't know what to do. I don't want to go back. Not because I'm afraid, but because I'm tired. I'm tired of cleaning up his messes. Of trying to explain basic empathy to a grown man. Of watching someone so determined to play the victim that he doesn't see the damage he's doing to the people who still care about him. People who shouldn't have to fight so hard to get scraps of his presence. But then I think about Lily. About the look on her face when she hugged him. When she hugged me. About how she asked, again, if he would be there to dance with her and her biological father. She's trying to include him. She's trying to make peace with a family situation that could have torn her apart. And somehow, she still has hope that maybe he'll be there for her. So now I ask myself, should I go back for the ceremony? Part of me says no. Part of me says, don't reward his behavior. Don't stand next to someone who makes you feel small and twisted and like you're the problem just for having feelings. But another part of me, the part that showed up in the first place despite everything, knows that this wedding isn't about me. And it's not even about him. It's about a young woman standing on the edge of a new chapter. A woman trying to create joy in a room full of old wounds. And maybe the best thing I can do is show up quietly, gently, just to bear witness to that courage. I don't know yet if I'll go. But I do know this. If I do, it won't be for Paul. And it won't be to save face. It'll be for her.